Hello and welcome to the Four Seasons. I'm your host, Ken Johnson. So in this show, as you know, we talk about what I call the four C's, or the four pillars of reality as we know it: culture, conflict, commerce, and conservation. So in today's episode, since it's November 2021 and this is National Novel Writing Month, we're going to be talking about, ironically, Caribbean hand pies. So what does Caribbean hand pies have to do with writing? Well, before we get there, let's start back with a previous episode. I had mentioned in the beginning of this month's episode about how you've got buyers, then you got readers. Okay, so that's very important to know. So here, what is a buyer? What is a reader? Why is this important? And why is there a difference? I also mentioned that if you're an author, then you're really what I call an authorpreneur. That means that you're a business person. You're no longer somebody that writes as a hobby. You're no longer somebody that writes for fun. You're writing for money. And if you're writing for money, you need to take it seriously. And you need to have a business plan. And in fact, if you seek traditional publishing and actually publishing with most reputable indie publishers, they're going to make you do a business plan and submit a budget for your marketing plan before they'll even look at the manuscript. Why is that? Because most books fail. And so publishers, they're a business just like being an author is a business. And publishers have specialties just like authors have specialties. And sometimes you can have a fantastic book, fantastic author, fantastic potential, and it be the wrong fit for that publisher. So a lot of authors, especially new independent authors, what we call indie authors, they get very upset very quickly because they say, well, we got rejected. Okay, well, I mean, the author for Harry Potter, she got rejected over 200 times. Reason why? She just didn't get the right publisher. It was a wrong fit. It happens. I was rejected several times. It's something that you're used to if you're an author. And sometimes the rejections are very stupid. I had one publisher that they rejected me because I used the word verily, and they said, "You sound like you might be a Christian, so we are going to reject your manuscript on the fact that you're possibly a Christian." Another one, they did a rejection because I didn't live in New York City. They said that unless you live in New York or Los Angeles, you basically lose out on all marketing potential, and so they did not even want to talk with me. So these reasons can sometimes be crazy for authors and ludicrous, but it makes sense to the publishers. They have a niche, and they're trying to fill that niche. So you need to realize that this is a business. You need to treat it like a business. I've already said just the break even should be anywhere from 1,000 to 1,500 books being sold within the first 6 months. In reality, even though that's the industry standard, if you do research on book sales, over 90% will never sell 1,000 books in their lifetime, meaning they will never make the break-even point. This is the reason why publishers have to be so demanding. It is also the reason why that there are so many vanity publishers. At least that's what we used to call them back in the old days. Now they have this fancy little term, hybrid publishing. But if a publisher is making you pay to be published, and they were taking submissions, and you either went through an agent or you gave them an unsolicited manuscript, or not unsolicited, but a solicited manuscript, then they should not be charging. Now, there are exceptions. And so even with my publishing company, I do a ghostwriting opportunity for people. So if I have people that they come to me and they say, I want to be an author. I have a great story, but I have crap writing abilities. It's okay. You can have a great story and not be able to write. That is the reason why authors are so revered. We do stuff people think they cannot do. And so, as I've said before, a lot of people, 500 words would be a lot to write. We write in the tens, if not hundreds of thousands of words a year. So one manuscript, as I've said before, it can range anywhere from 60 to 120,000 words based on your genre. And to consider that there's authors that they're putting out 4 and 5 novels a year, that is incomprehensible by some people. So treat it like a business. You've got to treat it like a business. If you don't, you'll never make anything, and all you're doing is muddying the waters for people that are actually trying. That means that you need to understand industry standards, comply with those industry standards. They're there for a reason. So one of the things, as I've said before, is finding out who your targeted buyers are and who your targeted readers are. And then that will be what you incorporate into your marketing plan, and that's also how you're going to budget. And so I have a number of people that they are into children's books. They're either friends, colleagues, clients, you name it. And the children's book industry is huge. It is a very crowded market. And there's a number of ways that you can handle children's books and market it. But even though children are your readers, they tend not to be your buyers. So if you're going to do like most indie authors, what most people do is they don't realize the difference. And so they go to Amazon, which is not your friend, by the way. You should not treat Amazon as your friend. They are anything but your friend. They're going to try to take money away from you because that is their business model. And so I really don't care much about Amazon or my Amazon review, and you'll see that in my book rankings. Even though I have sometimes fairly high rankings, sometimes, not always, I really don't care because they are not my primary interest. So, but what most indie authors do is they put their book on Amazon, they publish through Amazon, through KDP, which is the wrong thing to do. You should not do that. I highly recommend you do not do that. But they do. And then they post on social media. And that is their marketing plan, which I say that is the wrong way of doing it. I highly recommend you not do that. Social media is a time suck. It is a money suck. Do not do it. Then sometimes they'll get the bright idea to pay money for reviews. They get the bright idea to pay money for what they call blog tours or book tours, online book tours. those are scams, the book tours and blog tours most of the time. What most indie authors will find out later on is that these book tours and blog tours are run by one and the same person. So there may be 20 different blog sites, but you never see who the author of that blog site is. Who is that person? Well, it's the one you hired. They've created all these little fictitious accounts in order to give them an online presence. And they have all these authors paying out a lot of money, and they put up a blog site. No one really reads them because they're not promoting them as blogs. Their business is into conning authors. And then you might get a book sale or something other, but most of the time you get nothing out of it. You lose money. Another thing that like I said, you've got the paid reviews. Really, there's no reason for paid reviews. People have used Kirkus. Kirkus has actually had to change their business model. Back a few years ago, they were charging a fortune for their reviews. Now it's actually getting quite affordable, but I don't know if they're worth it. Every author I've ever talked to said that they have never seen a benefit from Kirkus, even though Kirkus is considered to be a reputable business. So I'm not saying that they're not reputable. I'm not calling them a scam. They do give a quality review. A lot of authors get upset because it's an honest review, and authors hate honesty. But that's what makes Kirkus so good, is that you're getting a true, honest review, and that's what readers really need is vetting, because this industry has lost vetting due to self-publishing. So you'll see that. Another thing that you would see is a lot of book promotions. And the way these work is that you will pay anywhere from a nominal amount of money to an ungodly amount of money. And I'm talking hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. And then you're expected to give away your books. If not give away your books, you're supposed to reduce it down to where you're practically giving them away. And again, they have numerous social media, fictitious accounts that they control. And they give out that, oh, we have thousands of people that they are looking at our account. They're seeing their accounts. These people normally are from overseas. They're not that savvy. They don't know much about marketing. They don't know much about niche marketing. They're going to apply one size fits all. And most authors I talk to, they tell me that they do not see a return on their investment, that it is a money suck and a scam. I can't say that they're a scam. They give you what you say, unlike the blog tours, which are. But it's still in the same mode. It's still the same concept. So what are you to do? Where are you supposed to spend your money? Where are you supposed to spend your time? Well, that depends on your market. So if you're something like a children's book author, you need to figure out who's going to be your buyer. And that means you have to ignore what Amazon tells you. Your buyer is not your reader. So I have a colleague that she writes children's books for realtors. Now, most people would say, why in the world is she writing a children's book for a realtor? Think of it as a realtor, because she happens to be one. You get a family. A lot of these millennials, you got to look at the culture. Remember, culture is one of the things I talk about. starting with my generation, Generation X. You had the baby boomers, what we call the locust generation, that from our perspective, they were arrogant, self-absorbed, and selfish. They were the epitome of poor individuals. And most of them divorced. We had rampant divorces. And the children were left alone to fend for themselves while they were out partying and finding new boyfriends and girlfriends and living it up. And so you had a lot of people that they went multiple times through divorces and breakups and stuff. And so you've got injured generations now that had no semblance of family. What all the old timers reminisce about with cousins and uncles and aunts and being with them and the sense of community, sense of family. Sadly, too many people after the Jones generation, which is a cohort for the baby boomers. So baby boomers came first, then the Jones, then you got Generation X. So after the Jones generation, you don't see the family anymore. It's broken families. And it transferred over from generation to generation. So now you've got millennials, and they have families. And there has been this resurgence that they are going to try not to do what their grandparents and their parents did. And so they take their children everywhere. And so that means that if you're a business person, you're having to deal with people that may have children that are brats. Back in my day, you would get a spanking, and that spanking might be severe. You learned to shut up when you were in company. You learned to mind your place. They never got that. They see that as being wrong for some reason. And so a lot of them don't discipline their children. Most of them don't know how to. They've never been taught how to be a good parent. And so they bring these children that are unruly, loud, uncontrolled. And if you're a realtor and you got children run all over the place, you really can't sell anything. So for this author, she does specialized books that she even does the engraving inside of the book saying that it was proudly given by this realtor with this realty company. And she does all this because she has a publishing house. And that is the market. So these realtors will buy hundreds or thousands of books at a time and give them away to these unruly children to shut them up so that they can show the house. And then, it's written off because it's marketing. But really it's not marketing, it's to shut them up. It's a ploy. So that's one way. I've talked about a colleague of mine, Jane Arwood, and she has a fantastic book out on marketing to schools. So that is something else I highly recommend that you do, is get her book if you're going to be doing children's book, YA books, anything that you could sell to schools. I've done a few business plans and stuff with children's books authors where we use this model. And I tell them to buy Jane's book. So in this model, what you do is you realize that the school systems and the states lie. They say we're not using Common Core. It's a lie. They're using Common Core. So you go to the Common Core website, you look up your age group, and then you pick out 2 to 3 core standards. So what's a core standard? Well, one will be ELA, English and Language Arts. That's what ELA is. So naturally, that's going to be the first one that you pick. And you need to make sure that you've got the sight words, you've got everything that is an ELA standard. Then you look at something else. Maybe it is math, maybe it is science, maybe it is social sciences. The more that you incorporate of those standards and different standards in your book, the more marketable it becomes. As I said before, one of the things to worry about is traction. And so traction means that you're selling at least 4 books, if not more, before you get any type of presence. So I know authors that they travel around states, multiple states around the country, selling to schools, and they sell minimum boxes of 100 books at a time per class or per grade. And so they will then get a speaker's fee on top of that. And just so that you know, my speaker's fee, I go on the low end. I mean, I'm rock bottom basement with my speaker fees of $400 an hour. So some of these people are charging easily $2,500 or more just to speak at a school. And then they're selling the books on top of it because they won't speak unless they can sell the books. So they'll be raking in several $1,000s off of one trip to a school. And they do that, 100 days out of the year? At least. Normal school day or normal school year is about 180 days. Some school districts are more, some are less. And the rest of the time they're writing. So they're writing and they're traveling. And they're actually, if they travel someplace, a lot of times that's considered to be marketing and it's written off on their taxes, which means that, again, that business mindset. What am I going to absorb and what am I going to write off? And that's where you need to talk to a tax professional. But another thing that I do is I tell people do readability scores. And there's multiple readability score formulas. And I do the Flesch, F-L-E-S-C-H, Flesch Kincaid, Smog, Automated. There's all these different ones that you can do. There's programs online. Some are free. Some of them are subscription-based. It really doesn't matter because they're going to do evaluations on your readability. And the different formulas will look at different things. Sometimes it is sentence length. Sometimes it is the number of syllables in a word. Sometimes it will be the complexity of the words you used. And so they will apply a score and a grade level. What I have found, alarmingly, is that the vast majority of indie authors are no longer writing at an appropriate reading level. When I was writing for newspapers and magazines, the standard was 7th grade. And the reason for that was that you have a lot of people that are not as literate as they need to be. And 7th grade was considered to be a good average for the common person. Now, magazines and newspapers are going way of the dodo bird. But books for adults should at least be at the 11th grade level. And what I'm finding is that a lot of indie authors are writing at 3rd grade level. So you need to do a readability score just to make sure that you're not writing too simplistic, because readers, they really do look at this stuff. And if they feel like you're just being too simplistic, a lot of them, they won't uh, continue reading. By the same token, you don't need to use a bunch of grandiloquent words, uh, fancy words, confusing sentence structures, things that you would use really in college. You don't need that. You can talk in plain talk, but talk as an adult. And so that is important to know. Now, with children's books, it is critical that you get those scores done and place those scores on the back of your book, because librarians will need to know this. And so what I do is, on the back of the books, I instruct my clients to have the readability, and then have what core standards are in the book: ELA, math, science, social studies, whatever, and what specifically it's talking about. So if it's science, and let's say it's anatomy, then say, ELA, core standard, science core standard, anatomy, math science or math core standard, mathematics addition and subtraction. Maybe multiplication, if you're talking about single cell organisms and how they multiply. So you whatever you are doing, you put that down there in the back. Sometimes authors put it in the front of the book, inside the cover. I don't recommend that, just because when you're showing it, and a librarian is going to grab it, the first thing they do is they look at the front and then they flip it over to the back. So having it on the back is something important, because that lets the librarian, and also lets whoever the department head for that grade level know you're vetting that this is meeting certain standards. And with those readability scores, I generally say to put no less than 3. I would have this, because some scores rank higher or lower than others. So I would do 3 to 4 that are consistent. Flesh, Kincaid, Smog, automated reading. There's a bunch of others. Find those that are consistent. You can have some that are a little off and show that, okay, this one has scored differently, but you want to make sure that the formulas are looking at not only the syllables, word count, word usage, but also the sentence length, so that you got different formulas covering different things, so that the scores you give them are not only consistent as far as the grade, but also consistent as far as the various aspects of the content that the librarian be looking for proper scoring. So I'll tell the authors that are doing this, definitely do these things and put them on the back. From there, if they're self-publishing or they're working with a publisher, I will also suggest that they go ahead and get what's called PCIP, which is Publishers Content or Publishers Cataloging. Publishers Content Cataloging, I think is what it is. So, and publishing, PCIP. Anyway, and then there's another one called MARC, and it's a machine system. You don't really need to know what PCIP and MARC is. These are data blocks. It is metadata that librarians will use. It's very affordable to get. I use 5 Rainbows. There's different companies out there. Donahue Group is another that does it. but you need to get this data into the book so that librarians have it already cataloged. You want to make it easy when you're doing these sales. You can then tell the librarian, oh, it already has PCIP and marked data blocks already. It makes it very easy, and of course the librarian will say, okay. Another thing is, if you have any type of book awards, like with my book, this right here is worth its weight in gold. Anytime you have a book award, that is vetting. It means that somebody somewhere has looked at your book, they came up with some type of scoring mechanism, and out of the book submitted, your book won. And I recommend entering multiple book awards so that when you're doing these sales, you can have the decals. Most people only worry about the online decals. I don't care about the online decals. I care about the actual stickers, because you can put those decals on the books, and when you're selling them, they will almost sell themselves. I remember being on a book awards committee one time. I chaired it, and we were running out of stickers. And I said, why is it that we have to buy so many freaking stickers? We've never had to do this. And somebody told me, said, we got a new author that won the book awards, and she went into the Christian book market and had her books all have decals on them, and now they're selling like hotcakes. Of course, I had to meet this lady, and we've become great friends. And she's a fantastic author. I love you, Lee. You're fantastic. I think you're wonderful. She's a professor that she teaches theological studies down in South Florida. And she's also got a cartoon series called Sea Kids. That's with the Trendy Broadcast Network. So her name is Leanne Mancini. I highly recommend that you at least go and visit her site, buy her books if you like children's books, because she does it through the churches. But if you're doing it through the schools, do it like I said. And again, the idea is you have a niche. So I kind of gave you an idea. So what does Caribbean ham pies have to do with anything? One of the tricks that I do is I use a thing called a jobber. And I'm old school. They don't call themselves jobbers anymore. But that is what they are. So let's go back several decades. There were multiple immigrants, Caribbean immigrants, in New York City. And they have something that us Southerners also know called hand pies. They call them patties or hand pies, depending upon where at in the Caribbean you are. Unlike the Southern, which is very sweet and deep fat fried and very bad for you, they, because of their culture, they sometimes will do sweet, but they also do a lot of savory hand pies. And so these patties or ham pies, they tried selling them, and one company had the bright idea to hire a jobber. And so the jobber went and started trying to find alternative markets, people that would buy these hand pies and then get them to the customers, because the jobber realized that your buyers are not always your users. And what they did is they went to the pizzerias and they said, you already have ovens, you already have deep freezes and chilling devices, so you can store these things very cost effectively. And ham pies are very popular. And you're trying to bring in new customers, and we're trying to reach customers. So why don't you buy a case of ham pies, try them out, advertise them, and If you like them, continue to buy from us. And so this one company pretty much seized the entire hand pie market with the New York City pizzerias. So you can go into any New York City pizzeria that sells hand pies. It's going to be from this one company. It comes frozen. They heat it up in their oven. So it's just another item for them to sell very inexpensively. And they make money off of it. And this hand pie company is now worth millions and millions of dollars. So what does that have to do with book sales? Well, there are jobbers in the market that they actually sell books this way. I even use one, and I recommend that you do more than one. If you're going to waste money on all those scams and shady investments that you'll never get return on for online stuff, if you would just switch over and hire one or two jobbers, three jobbers for the same price that you would spend as wasted investment, they will go out and they will try to market your book in atypical sales. And a lot of these, what they'll do is the minimum order is 1,000 books. So imagine your whole goals break even within 6 months. If you have 2 to 3 jobbers in 6 months, you may have 1,000 sales just because you hired a jobber. Now, there's a fee, and that fee can be a few $100s, so it is not cheap. And they have a catalog, and then they have a sales team. And so that fees get you into that catalog. Some of them are recurring costs, but the better jobbers, they do it as a one-time fee. And because they know it can take 6 months, a year, or 2 years, whatever, depending on how hard your book is to sell, in order for them to make an actual sale. So what you do is you pay a fee, and then you negotiate a price of the book. If you have a traditional publisher, or if you have some type of indie publisher, this may not be the role that you need to be, or route that you need to be taking. You may want to talk to your publisher instead about taking this, because then they could write off on their taxes and they can pay those fees and take that cost on. But some of these people will want as much as 60% off the book. I don't do that. I negotiate it down. But it depends on the person, and you need to be willing to negotiate. If you're self-published and you got a good quality book, it may be worth it to you to negotiate down a price. What they'll do is they'll sell a certain amount. If they're really good, they'll make it where it's non-returnable. And that's what you want, non-returnable books, because returnable books eat into your profits. If you're a published author with a publishing house, it eats into your royalties. So you need to make sure that they're non-returnable in this contract. The better ones will pay for the shipping, so you don't have to worry about shipping. And there's tons of cheap presses out there where you can get books printed very affordably, so you don't have to worry about the printing costs being so high compared to others. But those are some ways that you can market. You just need to sit down and think, who are going to be the ones that buy, and who am I writing to read my book? And the idea is, like I said before in one of my videos, I'm doing a fiction piece right now. I mentioned Quaker State. The idea is that I approach Quaker State show them the book, do my pitch in the hopes that when they're doing some event and they're doing gift bags and giveaways, that in that gift bag or giveaway is my book and they buy thousands. And they just hand them out like candy. And they will write that off as marketing, and I will market or I'll write it down as sales. And then I've got readers that I would never touch doing it any other way. And then that grows my business because I now have new readership. And that's the business of books and being an entrepreneur. I hope this has helped you in some way. So always I talk about ways to buy things. I mention my wife a lot, Tasha. She has Toshana's Creations. Again, she sells shirts, coffee mugs, tumblers, things of that nature at a price that won't break the bank. It's very affordable, but the quality is superb. It is not that cheap epoxy garbage that you cannot put in a dishwasher and use like you would a normal tumbler, and you're going to pay $60 or more for. You're not going to pay that with her. You can put it in dishwasher. It's not going to rub off like the vinyl stuff that you see with some crafters. This is all quality stuff. So down below will be her website that you can go to and buy from her. Again, I also talk about my friend Ricky Wallace. He owns his own company where he makes knives called Wallace Knifeworks. And then he also has a YouTube channel, which I ask that you like and subscribe, is called Wallace Knifeworks and Homestead. So go to Wallace Knifeworks and Homestead, like and subscribe. I think you will love his shows. He always does something unique, but he also makes quality knives. This is my favorite. I've got a ton more, but this one right here is the one that I grab always. So when I'm hunting and fishing, this goes with me. Also that goes with me is a neck knife. Now, if you know somebody that hunts and fish, this right here, just a itty bitty little knife you can put around your neck. It's great if you're going hiking, going camping, going hunting and fishing. It's just a neat little knife, and it's very affordable, makes a great stocking stuffer. I said before that I was going to talk about my artwork. So this right here is an ornament that I do. That was a dolphin painted on a feather, and I had some stuff in there that looked like it was coral. Those run $15 a piece. What most people don't realize is that I was selling on Facebook, and I got hacked early this March. And so hackers, they're telling me that in order for me to get my account back, because Facebook refuses to respond to my request to get back my account, they've done nothing as far as customer service. They suck. Facebook, Zuckerberg, you suck. Anyway, they've done nothing, and so there's hackers out there that you can pay to take back your Facebook account, and they're charging anywhere from $300 to $400 just for me to hack back my account. And I don't. I mean, I've lost my publishing company's site. I've lost a few other sites I have control over, and I also lost my feather painting. So if you want to buy some feather paintings from me, you can definitely contact me directly, and I can work it out. This one right here, you can see it. That's a kingfisher holding a little fish. And of course it says no fishing. I have a ton of these big feathers. This one right here runs $250, but because I'm trying to get rid of my inventory, if you want me to sell you what I've already painted, I can drop the price down to $100 on my big paintings. I have others. Just message me and we can work out a deal. As always, go wherever fine books are sold and buy a quick guide to archetypes and allegory. Again, like I said, this is just one of many awards that's won. A great stocking stuffer for any writer that you may have in your life. Anybody loves comics, fantasy, any type of reading, this explains what those common character types are and what the hidden messages are behind it. Also, go to ebook lingo, ebooklingo.com. I have a special deal with with them for my ebook that you will not find anywhere else, so that you can get it at a very affordable price. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Please come back again, like and subscribe, and have a good day.